So we'll be able to start our last season, so we're in chronological order. Um,
Huh.
so last campaign we did only just avoid relegation compared to our ambitions of playoffs. At any point, did you think we would get relegated, and how much of a disappointment was last campaign?
I never thought we'd be relegated. Truth be told, we were somewhat fortunate because we knew only three clubs were going to be relegated anyway. But when we got to the point where we decided to make a management change and bring in Daryl, that was when I started to get somewhat concerned. My issue was as disappointing as the season was, I didn't feel like we did anything wrong at our, player selection level. It was just the injuries. The injuries just
Yeah,
destroyed what we had planned, right? So, you can go through the injuries as well as I can,
yeah,
but I think it was just a perfect storm. We had all the injuries. I think, in fairness to Peter Taylor, he was coaching with one hand tied behind his back because of that. And then the morale started to waver, in my opinion.
mm,
And that was, for as much as anything else, one of the reasons why we felt like we had to make a management change.
mm,
Uh, but and I know I'm answering more than you asked, but
yeah,
Daryl brought a really aggressive approach, which I think matches up with what I've been saying from an ownership standpoint. I feel like we are really well aligned. And that's no disrespect to Peter. Peter is an incredibly successful and smart manager. I just think at some point it just was a lost cause.
Was it with the morale? Was it the fans more than the players, or was it just around the whole club?
Well, I will say that, you know, again, all of this being fairly new to me,
Mm,
one of the things I have to be careful of is how fickle English football fans are. So you
yeah,
have to be careful not to listen to everything that's being said because they don't really know what's going on behind the scenes,
no,
right? And so I think that it was a combination of all of it. But
mm,
I don't want to say that, the fans drove me to make the decision, because the fact of the matter is, and I think I said this earlier, our choice of Daryl, if I were listening to the fans, many of the fans had selected him. There was two or three other coaches that they wanted to see come in. But it really wasn't to please necessarily the supporters or the fans, though obviously it's really important to listen. It was what we had really identified ourselves behind the scenes. But, I also have to be reminded that as excited as we are about Daryl and what we're planning for this season and next season, at some point, somebody's going to text me, tweet, or email, or put on Instagram that we should sack Daryl.
yeah,
So, and it's probably the same person who said we should hire Daryl.
yeah,
So I have to be a little bit careful. I think on our side, from a board of directors side, we have to be more patient
yeah,
than the average supporter. It just
yeah.
has to, because you can't make changes all the time.
Because it could be passion that just takes over sometimes without following
Correct.
through. Um, so with the recruitment for the manager, what was the? I know it was a lot of young candidates the fans were looking at. Was that a sort of thing you had with the recruitment? What was your criteria, and who else was on your shortlist?
Ah, well, I'm not going to share my short list, but look, we wanted somebody with experience, but we also wanted somebody who was aggressive. So one
Mm,
of the things that we felt, even with Peter's management style, was it wasn't as aggressive, right, on the pitch.
yeah,
But there's also, but Peter brought wonderful qualities to behind the scenes that I don't think people fully appreciate, especially with his connectivity within English football. So, how do you think we got Connor Wilkinson, right? How do you
yeah,
think that some of these players came about? And it was because of relationships there. So, the reality is, though, what we were looking for was a much more offensive, aggressive approach. And I think that we found that in Daryl. I obviously was thrilled that Daryl had been up in League Two, and his connectivity to the community, and his history with Dagenham. And we just hit it off from an interview standpoint,
Yeah.
just personally, right? We're both young. Well, he's younger than I am, but we're both young, aggressive. We both want to be in the football league. So I've been told, I shouldn't say it as much as I do, because especially if we finish 17th on the table, it seems kind of
Yeah.
ridiculous. But it's really, I believe in my heart that if we had stayed healthy, we were a playoff club, no question.
Yeah.
And we saw when we were healthy and we had, and we brought in, House, and we brought in Deering, and we brought in, and we had Balanta back. I mean, we saw what we could do. It was just this little tidbit, and then it all fell apart, so.
Yeah. So you mentioned some of the strikers there, and also Connor Wilkinson. When the last time we spoke, that was you said that was a big loss. Do you feel you found a replacement with House and Reed looking very impressive for fans?
Well, they're very impressive, but we have to solidify that even more.
Mm.
So I can tell you, we had a board of directors meeting last week, and we talked about, and it's a tricky situation because we don't know when the season's going to start. We have certain players under contract, certain players who are not. I'm sure you've read there's going to be, I forget, 1,400 players that are free agents or something. Yeah. So we have to navigate it, but we will go after another striker. Not because we don't have confidence in what we have in house, but because it's an area of depth that you just can't, there's no value that we can put on it that's too high, right? I mean, we found that out when we lost our striker. We found that out when Angelo got hurt. We need goal scorers. It's just so critical, especially at this level, right? I mean, that's going to be the difference maker.
Yeah, because the goals are all we need really at the moment.
Right. So I can tell you the way we look at it is it's really simple. If we look at the National League or League Two or even National League South or North, you could probably pick the same players that we would pick, given their goal scoring rate to minutes played. Right. I mean, it's the same top 10, and we're going to be very aggressive to try to get somebody in. I mean, we have to, right? So
on the note of new signings, you mentioned the strikers. How do you feel they've got on overall?
Well, this is the tricky part, and I'll talk about being patient. So Daryl's not a patient man. I'm not a patient man. But we really don't know if and when the season's going to start. And, we don't know from a player contract standpoint how we're going to navigate it all. It's really important that we build a squad that we're confident in, and obviously we have several people who are already several players who are under contract. But to fill out the rest of the squad, we need to have some certainty that we're going to actually be training in August, playing in September, or training in September, playing in October. And we don't know what the market is going to look like either. So it's really interesting. Obviously, I think the best players will continue to demand good, wages. But, we don't know the financial strength or weaknesses of all the clubs around us. We don't know what this is going to do to player values. And we also don't know, God forbid, if we were to go out and sign 5 new players, what if we don't play at all this year? And how do we survive as a club with no revenue and signing these players? So, this interview has been delayed by me for a few times. And part of it is I don't have a lot to give you because we're treading water.
Yeah. So some clubs have already published their retained list. Would you say that would be too soon? And because we've got players out of contract, some fan favourites like Honorisi, Robinson and Kroll. Will we be publishing the retained list at all anytime soon?
Yeah, I think that's got to happen soon. Steve Thompson will probably get mad at me for committing to that. But I think we'll start to publish it because, first of all, it's important for the fans to know that we have every intention of keeping, the players that we feel can make us the strongest. So, right. So the general message here, by the way, is um, the American consortium that is operating Dagenham is more committed than ever. Daryl is more aggressive than ever, and we will put a very strong club together. So decisions won't be made based on lack of finances or based on what's happened with COVID, but decisions will be made based on just how we plan the season moving forward. So yeah, I think once we square away these contracts, which I think by August 1, which what is it, July 9th. So in the next few
Yeah.
weeks, you're going to start to see that.
I know we're jumping around a bit, but if we
Okay.
could just go back to last season, I know you don't like picking a favourite player, but if not, could you pick a favourite moment or game? You were over some very dramatic games last season, weren't you?
I mean, we were at the Aldershot match, right? I mean,
Yeah,
how could that not be your favorite moment of the year? Um, it was, it was like, it was euphoria, right?
yeah,
It was really special. And obviously, what it means is we as Americans just need to show up to every match, and we'll be
yeah,
undefeated and win the league, and not even have to worry about the playoffs. But yeah, that was a really special moment for us. And then I really did feel like, after we went back sort of down and the lows that we experienced when we brought Daryl in, I felt like there was a real shot in the arm for the club.
yeah,
And I felt like we had real momentum. And truthfully, I never in a million years, once Daryl took over and we started to get healthy, the thought of relegation was not. I mean, I knew
yeah,
the playoffs had sort of fallen out of possibility, but I really believe we would have finished, 10th, 12th, not 17th
yeah.
by the time things were said and done.
It was the attacking style, wasn't it? It looked like we were going to score more goals, so we'd probably stay up.
It just
Um,
felt it, right? It felt it.
yeah. So Liam Gordon was one of your favourites last time we spoke. He was loaned out. Um, did you accept the reasoning behind that, or were you disappointed? Would you want to watch him more in a Dagenham shirt last season than you got to see?
With Liam, look, our philosophy on loaning players out or giving them the opportunities to, play elsewhere is such that in the end, I feel like we have a responsibility to the player. And that's why I think people like coming to play for Dagenham.
Mm,
They understand that if the opportunity is there and it's something that can be positive for their careers, that we're going to support that as well.
mm,
And sometimes it's painful to do that. And we've had scenarios like that. But ultimately, I feel like, what I always want the Daggers to be thought of as a place that it's player friendly, right? So if a player comes and their agent brings an opportunity and it makes sense for the player and the club, then, it's something that we always will consider.
So obviously the target for last season was playoffs, and we fell short of that target, and changes were made. Do you have the same ambition for next season? I think you might have touched upon it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to not go to the playoffs and just win the league.
Yeah,
But no, my ambitions are clear that we should be in the playoffs. Daryl's are clear that we should be in the playoffs. And, look, within reason, we're going to give every opportunity to Daryl and the coaching staff to be able to do that, right? I mean, we're not going to outspend the rest of the league 3-1 like Salford City did,
yeah,
but we will be in the top tier of spending.
yeah,
And most of the time, if you have good coaching and you have committed players, which we believe we do, then that should translate to at least a playoff club. I mean, to me, I understand people have come in and just spent money and clubs have done poorly. But to me, at the National League, if you have the right formula and you
yeah.
say, we're going to be in the top 8 in what we spend, then you should probably be in the top 8 in the league. It doesn't always work that way, obviously, but
Yeah. So you won't chuck silly money at it, like you're not as impatient as Gary Neville at Salford, but you will.
no, we're not there yet.
No.
Yeah, no, I think that especially this year, we want to be prudent.
Yeah.
But I do think there's some opportunities that will come out of this because I do believe that some clubs are really going to struggle.
Yeah.
And we've heard we've heard rumors of, several clubs that are already, making significant cuts, and
Barnet
we'll
and
try to
places.
take advantage. What's that?
Barnet, apparently rumored.
Correct.
Yeah,
But others as well. And some who've said, they might go part-time. So we'll see. We will be a full-time professional football club.
it's a good guarantee there. So on the matter of a red and blue kit, this was going to be the home kit for next season. So we turn to traditional colours. Is this in the making, and will it be released soon?
The answer is yes. The red kit is in the making. Um, uh, so that white kit that you're wearing will become the road kit. So the truth is, it would have been revealed by now,
Mm.
but COVID slowed everything down,
Yeah.
including Nike, and the manufacturing of the kits, and it's been very frustrating. And by the way, in Memphis, our Nike kits showed up like the day before
Oh,
our first match. It was tight. So we're doing our best, but I can tell you, if you had access to my email as recently as last night,
oh,
there was a text or there was an email from Nike with the kit.
oh.
So it's coming, but it will, it will certainly be more in this color than your color.
Was it red or red and blue, or was it just red?
Oh, I can't tell you.
Okay, so on next season again, season tickets. I know some clubs higher up in the English football have committed to season tickets. Will you be looking at them at a normal price if they were to be available next season? And do you think fans will be allowed in the ground by the start of next season?
Yeah, the answer is season tickets, yes. I mean, we don't have plans, unless I'm mistaken, to do anything different.
Mm.
So normal price would be, I believe, where we will fall. The question on fans in the grounds is really the $1 million question. What we expect is to be able to have limited fans. And what that means is maybe 25 or 30% capacity.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, our ground can hold about 6,000, 6,500. So that would maybe enable us to have 1,500 fans, which is
It's huge
not,
anyway. Yeah.
yeah, it's not that atypical, right? So it might be a disaster on Boxing Day, but
Yeah.
so we hope so. As you know, we've opened the bar already. We've put a lot of safety measures in, all the COVID safety measures, from social distancing. We put plexiglass in at the bar for the bartenders, so they don't have connectivity. The tables are wider apart. Every other urinal is covered. So we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing. And our hope is that, we welcome everybody back in September to the
Mm.
football.
You mentioned the attendances were around 1,500, 1,400. And I know that was an issue at Fans Forums previously, how you went about boosting the attendance. Diversity Day was a big success and it brought loads of fans to the club. Is this something you're looking at coming out of this pandemic, trying to reach the local community a bit more and try and boost the numbers?
Yes. So, look, the easiest way to grow our fan base is to win. And I've recognized that. And maybe I didn't recognize it as much as I do today when I first came. The second piece is we are announcing in the next 10 or 14 days a partnership that will really help with attendance, which we're excited about. And I'll just tease you with it, but I think our fans will be very excited about it. And then, yeah, the diversity piece is so important, right? Especially given the demographics of Barking and Dagenham. And I think that is where the opportunity is there, by the way, not just for our football club, for all football clubs. So that's something that we will continue to push. And I think it's more important now than ever. So all of the above, but we are excited about something that's coming in the next 10 days. And I think that will really help boost the recognition of Dagenham and Redbridge and the attendance.